here's a case not even Scooby-Doo can solve. Although I guess if we really think about it, Scooby never really solves anything. He just kind of bumbles and stumbles into solutions.
Yeah.
So really, you should take this fucking dog out to the shed, behind it to be precise.
Put a slug between his eyes.
It's not like a normal slug. It's like a hollow point.
Yeah.
Raro Raggy, I'm ruthless. Anyway,
One of our best intros, sadly.
quality. It just keeps dropping. Anyway, today we watched, or I showed you a film that it had a lot of people talking. Let's just say that, and that had to do a lot with the promotional campaign behind it, which made some pretty big claims.
Yeah.
And I've always been one to say, do not ever say stuff like, this is the scariest movie of the year.
Scientifically proven to be the scariest
Yeah.
film. I actually saw that, by the way.
Yeah, I saw it too. Don't do that, companies. You think that this is helping your movie, but all you're doing is creating a subsection of viewers that's gonna inherently fucking hate your movie just cause they want to go against that. They want to push against that. It's kind of like the worst tactic you could use.
Yeah. You could just go, it's a movie.
Also, it creates a lot of expectations by sheer comparison. Like this one got compared to The Exorcist, not in terms of content, but they basically called it The Exorcist of this generation. Again, you're just creating some sort of backlash immediately right there. So that's a big no-no, companies. Don't do that. And I say that only because this movie does deserve accolades. Just don't bring up any other movie in doing so. Here's the thing. This movie is phenomenal. And it's like any movie that is on another level of quality, it's going to have people that don't like it, period. Beyond the whole pushback against any promotional campaign or anything. It's just going to have people that inherently do not like it because it is that great. We're talking about Hereditary. It's called, to say that this was a big point in the genre of horror is an understatement. Across the board, I think people pretty much critically agreed that this was something else, something kind of out of left field. And it's not so much that the story is strikingly original. In fact, you could see elements of movies like The Wicker Man and Rosemary's Baby, and I've never seen somebody point this out. If they have, well, I didn't hear it, so possibly you heard it here first. The core story here is kind of like the linking backstory to the Paranormal Activity series, which, is not very well regarded among a lot of people. So that just goes to show you that the ideas here are not exactly new, but that's not what makes this movie exceptional. It's the presentation that makes the movie exceptional. It's the atmosphere that it fosters. It's the expectation that it fosters. It's the striking imagery. All this put together with these cobbled together concepts in a new way really create an experience. This was a movie that when I saw it in a theater where the immediate reaction afterwards was interesting. I've never seen a reaction to a movie this way.
Was there one guy going,
"What the?" There was people, yes. First of all the reactions were audible. You know what I'm saying? There was no silence after this movie ended. There were people like audibly expressing shock and awe. There were people arguing with each other. Yeah, there were people screaming at the screen, not screaming, but yelling at the screen, like this is bullshit. There was a general, I can't even call it a general because that's unfair. That's just insinuate that everybody had the same notion. There was just chaos. Like, what the fuck? It was crazy, man. I've never seen a response to a movie like this that I saw with this particular film. It was nuts. It was almost as entertaining as a movie to watch. People go all over the fucking map, with how they took in this picture. So anyway, it was a movie that the moment I saw it, I was like, I saw something that I've never seen before. And yet, of course, as aforementioned, there's elements in here that are, tried and true, so to speak. But it was a unique experience. I also knew one other thing. I was like, I missed a lot of things. Even though there's a moment in this movie where your mind, by default of the way the movie's structured, starts to reach back and connect everything as much as it can, there's so much that you miss. So this was my second viewing. This was your first viewing. And I can tell you right now, straight off the bat, this is a movie that gets even richer when you revisit it. You know, if you put together all the pieces, hopefully, the first time, I know there was a lot of people that didn't. And then there's a lot of people that get mad at you insinuating that they didn't. Oh, you think you're smarter? No, fucker. This movie was built in a certain way. It's not a problem if you miss something. That's the point. The point is you're not going to put everything together. You will put what you need together, but you're not going to put everything together. So upon revisiting, you see the subtle textures all the more. Stuff that you knew was there, but when it was too late, when things had already happened to a certain degree, now you can enjoy and sit back and go, wow, look, that's there, that's there, that's there. This is how this is going to get there. And you know, it just gives you a much more fulfilling viewing. So this is an interesting movie in the sense that it works even better and is even more fascinating the second go around. That being said, like as aforementioned, the fucking responses were all over the map. So I gotta know, where are you at? Are you gonna strangle me for suggesting that this is a masterpiece? Or are you gonna be like, hell yeah? Or are you just gonna be like Snoop Dogg and come up with shitty rhymes?
Well,
hashtag Yo Snoop. We get it. There's people next to you.
Yeah, so I just gotta say, Ahab next to me. No one else next to me. The movie's pretty good. I liked it. It was I'll say this. I pieced together the plot, or the driving force of it, pretty early on, and yet I was still confused until the end.
Yeah, there's
like, when it ended, I was like, oh, that is what it was.
Here's the thing about this.
What?
Yeah. Here's the thing about this movie. It leads you on a multitude of directions, you know? The impression is it's this type of movie. But then it shifts focus to, wait, it's this type of movie. Despite what the plot being singular.
Yeah.
No, wait, it's this type of movie. So it always kind of is on a mission to discombobulate you. But I think the ultimate masterstroke to this movie is that it chose to use as little exposition as possible. You get your first meaningful chunk of exposition about 3/4 into the movie. You know, and usually movies are... The dialogue is usually packed with exposition. And that's fine. There's no problem with that. You can actually use exposition quite well. It's just very rare to have a movie that just lets you have dialogue that would normally happen, that doesn't feed you things. And like I said, the only time this movie does that is literally almost towards the end when things are building up. And even then, it's an assumption. And it's coming from a character that's made to look completely undependable given the information that does come through about her, i.e. her... You know, her family has a history of mental instability and, you know, etc. So it's coming from a source that you can't even trust despite what's being on. So everything you see, you're seeing as the character's experience with very little explanation as to what's going on. And no matter what you figure out, like you said, there's so many elements in play that contribute to the final payoff that you're bound to miss some of them. But anyway, if you're unwilling to watch this movie, or if you haven't already, just a real quick summary. After the death of a estranged matriarch, shall we say?
Old hag.
An old hag, for lack of better words. Her daughter is somewhat indifferent to her passing. However, a set of strange circumstance begins to go into motion, and soon the family is... You know, in a downward spiral of, you know, weird phenomena. I mean, that's not even touching on what's going on here. But...
It makes it sound too simple.
Yeah, exactly. And really, that's just what's set into motion, the events here. Because there's something much bigger underneath all that. And really, the movie, I think, works best because it anchors itself in a realistic response to grief. You know, that's at the core of the movie. In fact, the response to grief reminds me of a movie called The Babadook, another movie that caused a lot of controversy because people hated the mother and hated the son character in that movie.
And made him gay.
And apparently they just made the fucking character gay for no damn reason. But anyway, the point is, a lot of people just vehemently disliked the mother and the son character in that movie, failing to realize that you were supposed to kind of dislike them because their response to grief was supposed to be realistic. And let's face it, folks, when we respond to something life-changing, like the death or passing of someone, we can be very unpleasant people. And this movie does that as well. Perhaps it takes it to the point where you almost want to throttle the main character. But at the same time, you don't, because you know something.
Yeah, I don't think it ever gets
else
annoying.
is there.
Yeah, it never gets to the point where I want to murder anyone.
There is much to say about Toni Collette in this movie. She is superb in her role. So yeah, I mean, it's just that the movie anchors itself on that particular aspect to get across the horror. It really takes you out of the idea or the mindset that this is a horror movie. You know, it creates a realistic experience. Again, the dialogue is not exposition heavy, so it's you don't have people just saying shit that they wouldn't normally say in real life. They just experience things, and you get to experience it with them along the way. And if you allow yourself to be taken away by that, it's even more unsettling. You know, so let's talk about this. Pros, cons, anything you want to say. Hit me with it, man.
I think the first pro is that it has a quite great atmosphere of freakiness. Trademark.
Yeah, it's thick, man, and it comes just from the get-go. Really, there's this uneasy weight to what's going on, and it's very mundane at first. The passing of someone that you didn't really care, or that our main character didn't really give a shit about, but should have, and that escalates to, kind of like a feeling of something weird and supernatural happening, and there's some genuinely eerie moments to that. And then again, like as aforementioned, since the movie shifts so much in terms of what type of movie experience it's suggesting to the audience, we get to see a variety of elements. So it's always rife with suggestion, the movie, which just contributes to the atmosphere, the imagery alone, and I think the strange, almost minimalistic score as well also contributes to
There's a thing that I like in movies where it just kind of uses this weird hum a lot of the time in the background, and it does really add to it because you're kind of like, there's a little hum, something weird's going on. And you know what, best way to put it, there's always a feeling of something going on, and again, upon revisiting it, the first time you watch it, you realize at one point how much exactly was going on, but you inherently know you missed some of it, and upon revisiting, you just see all those little touches that seem mundane at first, but then begin to reveal exactly how much manipulation was going on by the character. The weird thing is that I noticed a lot of it. I just didn't know what the hell it meant. There's several scenes where something will happen and they don't really acknowledge it, and you're kind of like, huh?
Yeah.
And then at the end, you're like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, and again, that contributes to that pervasive feeling of uneasiness.
Yeah. Because
yes, you do know there's something wrong. You just don't know exactly how it fits into this bigger puzzle. So you're always kind of on edge. And then couple that with, I think here's a bigger pro. I mean, as big a pro is the stark, memorable images and scenes that are like, unique to this movie. They hearken a little here and there to something we've seen perhaps before on occasion, but taken apart from the core of this movie, they just come out as these like disorienting scenes of madness at times. And I was glad to see that upon second viewing, that feeling doesn't go away. Sometimes when a movie, once you've resolved it completely, when you revisit, it's just not as effective anymore. And I was glad to see that some stuff was even more effective, especially when the main character's daughter, Charlie, the impact of that loss upon second viewing was more from a human angle than when I initially watched it, which was again with that eerie feeling of there's something fucking gonna happen here.
I think that whole scene is actually quite good.
It's gut wrenching.
Yeah, it does make me. Even though this kid's kind of creepy, I'm like, man, looks like an old lady. And something weird's going on with the kid. That scene is like presented so realistically in how people react.
Yeah.
And it's so long.
Yes.
That scene that you're just kind of like, oh man, this is still going. And it's still effective.
Yeah.
In a good way, mind you, not in a, oh man, it's still going.
And they really take, I was going to say drain, but they really take as much as they can from that almost irrational response to grief from her. And it's riveting, man. It's riveting to see that. As much as it is tragic, it's riveting to see that. In fact, you could say that's the most horrifying part of this movie, because you can actually relate that to normal life. Again, that it balances.
This was more effective than Pet Sematary original.
Oh yeah,
whatever it was.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And what's weird is that again, upon second viewing, when you realize the bigger picture, possible spoilers here if you haven't seen it, that the daughter was just one step behind the ultimate embodiment of a demon, basically. Even then, it doesn't take away anything, because the grief is from the family's point of view, and it's as impactful as you would expect. So, yeah, man, probably the most effective part of that movie is right there, other than, possibly the more strange and outlandish scenes that just kind of give you this bizarre shock response, So anyway, yeah, I mean, it's great that you point that out. What else you got there, man?
It's a very long movie, but it never feels long, and you're always kind of just wanting to see what happens next.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good in my book, because there is some movies where you're like, woo, ended already. This one I was just kind of like, man, how is this coming together?
Yeah,
and then it does, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Excuse me.
And even then, like, even when you kind of piece everything together at the end, you're still kind of like, am I missing something?
Mm-hmm.
So that's good.
And I could tell you that, I mean, I don't know exactly where you personally are at, but the responses, of course, vary. Some people grasp the whole thing. Some people don't grasp the whole thing. Some people fail to see why this is a rich experience, and they're just angry that they didn't get something.
Yeah.
Again, that the marketing might have suggested. This is not a normal movie, for lack of better words. The structure is very different. It's not the type of thing that you'd normally see on even for a horror movie, that you'd see on a day-to-day basis. So it's either gonna make it or break it for you, the movie. You're either gonna go into this and be absorbed into this weird atmosphere that's created for itself, or you're not. So that might be a con for some people. In fact, it won't be a con for some people. Some people are just not gonna gel with the way this movie is structured and made, and that's understandable. And knowing that the writer and director intentionally did that is kind of comforting, because sometimes when you love a movie, it's kind of disappointing to see people not understand why it's amazing. Even if they don't like it, some people, you cannot like something and understand why people like it.
Yeah.
And this movie had a lot of people that I've discussed it with, where they're just like vehemently in hate with it. You know what I'm saying? And it just
I think it's because it's so kind of like through most of it I was kind of like, man, you struggle to call it a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because of there's a lot of like dramatic push behind it, and most of it is just kind of people being sad. And then towards the end, it does become. It's very much a horror movie, but it's not structured like a horror movie, and it's very different. So if you're going in expecting like spooks and jumps and shit,
Yeah,
you're gonna be disappointed. You're gonna dislike it.
this is a far cry from commercial horror.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. This is a, I wouldn't say this is an art film, but if you're gonna make a movie that's gonna lean more towards art, this would probably be it without completely being an art film.
It's
you know?
kind of like
It doesn't have any of those pretensions. Don't get me wrong.
it's in the same like a little more horror, like straight horror, but it's in the same category as like The Witch.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Where it's just kind of like something you're seeing these people's lives, and then it becomes very obvious that there's a horror behind it, but it's not in the front, the whole time. But that's kind of what makes it creepy, because there's stuff in the background and you're kind of like, what the? And then old people hang dong and you're like, oh no, horror.
And it's actually pretty crazy how much of the elements, shall we say, the manipulative elements in play are littered throughout the movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I mean, they're pretty much there from the beginning. Sometimes they're glaringly obvious, but again, as you watch the movie the first time, I think this movie is, here's the thing, I think it always has your mind working, because you're never exactly sure where it's going to go until things, begin to solidify towards the end. So that's a good thing for me. And I know some people that don't like that. They don't like, they like to sit back and gnaw on some corn.
I think the best way to see it is just to go in without having any freaking expectation, not watching any videos or anything like I did. Of course, no, we just ruined it for certain people.
Yeah.
But there you go. Just kind of go in not knowing anything, and then you're just kind of in for the ride. And I think that is the way it's supposed to be seen the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, making your own mind about a movie like this is the way to go. And you're either going to think, I think this is a black and white movie. You're either going to think this is amazing, or you're going to probably be in that camp that's like close to hate, if not just outright hate. It's that type of movie. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, a lot deserves accolades. I think the cast here is phenomenal. First of all, it's always great to see Gabriel Byrne in something. He's so often just a secondary character in things. Except I guess for that time that he played the devil in that movie that wasn't that great.
Oh shit, that all makes sense.
But it's just cool to see a character actor that usually gets shafted actually have a lead role. Toni Collette, as aforementioned, is exceptional in this. Everybody feels real.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody just feels like legitimate people that you'd meet. And even the, again, possible spoilers, we haven't seen it, even the cultists feel real. And it's just when you get that final reveal, it's all the more unsettling seeing how pervasive their reach was. As you glimpse familiar faces in the crowd, and and just adding to the fact that they were so real that they could just be the everyman. That just an unsettling notion.
And they're nude.
Yeah, well, being nude thing is kind of weird too. But
good.
Anyway, exceptional. Also, this movie kind of plays with familiar scenes and ideas that we've seen before in other movies, but it does something unexpected with him almost every single time. Again, the illusion that this could be a haunting movie at the beginning, and then no, it's this type of movie, and oh no, wait, is this kind of like they've done some sort of spiritism and now they've brought in a demon movie? No. So it's kind of always taking these ideas it feeds you and then kind of turning them on their head always, and always keeping you on edge, because nothing is ever as it seems at all times, and it's all contributing to this bigger arcing storyline in the background ultimately, which is pretty amazing. Got anything you want to add?
Nah, I think we hit it all.
Do you have any negatives to this movie that you can think of?
Not really, other than I saw some gross saggy tits.
Gross saggy tits are always negatives unless they're on hags.
Well, I guess they were on hags.
They were on hags. I guess guys count as hags too.
No.
Guy hags?
Gags.
If they're cultists or hags. Gags?
No, you gotta come up with another name. It's not hags.
It's gags. Damn
Gags.
it.
That's horrible.
Anyway.
They didn't make me gag because, damn, they hung dong and it was gross.
Yeah, old people hanging dongs, possibly a negative, but we forgive it because,
It added to the gross.
added to the grossness.
Like, oh, man, it's a thing.
Yeah, there's just a plethora of engaging moments in this movie. You can actually watch this movie in chunks, and it'll be enjoyable in chunks, too.
Yeah.
It'll be engaging in chunks. That's how effective... That's how much texture is put into this movie, how much detail is put into this movie, story-wise, visually, etc. I love the way this movie was shot, the cinematography. Again, as realistic as the situations and characters and dialogue seemed, there was kind of like a sense of artifice to the way scenes and places looked, and that was and they kind of acknowledged that with that initial shot where the woman, the main character makes miniatures, and it just goes into a miniature and the movie begins. So there's a lot of stuff that the movie is very self-aware of, that it employs to create an artistic feeling without ever making it feel presumptuous and overstuffed or anything. So it achieves its artistic value in another way, while at the same time giving us this engaging storyline.
Yeah, and it doesn't have any weird old English.
But there is that.
Which stuff?
Now, a good cult movie is rare, but apparently they're making a comeback all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And Ari Aster's next movie is out in about a month's time, and apparently he's going to revisit some sort of cult concept. So I'm very interested to see that. All being said and done, this could be a one-time thing. This could be, it's happened before where somebody makes a genre-changing movie and they can never recapture that magic.
Stinkers.
I hope that's not the case, but if it is, this guy just created something that's unignorable. You can't just fucking ignore the fact that this thing happened and is gonna change the landscape of horror, and has changed the landscape of horror already. So that, and it speaks on its own. So anyway, let's give any final thoughts on this, and of course, a score 1 to 10. Give it to me.
I think as far as cult films go, it's pretty good. I will say that during a very specific part or important part where she kind of opens that book and it gives you that little clip of what's going on in the writing. I didn't read it all. Didn't catch it all. So I was kind of like, oh shit, I missed something. And thus was confused. But then it made sense and I was like, okay, I didn't miss too much. I got it. I just want to throw that out there. Read the shit that's on screen.
There's a lot of stuff like that in the movie.
And you might have to pause because sometimes it goes really quick. It doesn't do it too shitty, like, check this out, guy.
Yeah.
It just kind of shows it to you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thankfully, it didn't. It actually kind of added to it because I was kind of like, crap, I missed something. And then it was like, okay, cool. I was reassured that I was not a fool. So that's kind of cool. It's pretty good. I do think that I have to rewatch it because it's just one of those movies. That being said, it doesn't take anything away from it. So I'll give it a solid 9.7. I don't know what that means, but I'm leaving the 3 points off until I rewatch it.
It's the 0.3 points, no less. It says a lot for a movie where you know that you didn't capture the whole picture, but you just inherently also know that you've seen something special, and that was my reaction the first time. I knew I had missed things. I knew that no matter how much the ending resolved everything, there were things that could enrich the experience all the more.
I'll say this too. I forgot to mention this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was because I overate tonight, but during that scene where the little, the death scene, I guess, in the middle, I was feeling sick. I think it was because of the movie, because it was a very, like you said, it's kind of gut wrenching.
Yes, I agree.
And it was just kind of like hard to watch.
The overeating thing
I mean, it played into it. Don't get me wrong.
Did you expect anything less from an elephanting duo like us? But I can guarantee you that it was also the movie. Yeah. And that's even rarer for me. Yeah. And I know for you too. For a movie to give you a genuine feeling of unease to the point where it breaches into the physical.
Yeah, I was even kind of like, I thought I was going to have to tell you to pause it or something for a while.
And you're not alone, man. The first time, and in the theater too, just in general, the people, there was like people fidgeting in their seats, murmuring. And I bug out on people fucking talking during. I was just like, I get you. There was just something about that sequence. Yeah. And it happened again here. I mean, I was just like, man, there's just something utterly gut-wrenching about that particular sequence, on so many levels.
Yeah.
On the one that you can relate to, just on the basic human level, the loss, the grief, the anger, etc. And then just on a visceral level as well, because it's grotesque.
And it's on every like side too. Like you feel for the freaking guy too, the son, and everybody. You're kind of like, oh man.
Yeah.
And the way they show it is like, I can believe someone reacting like that.
Mm-hmm. It's quite interesting an experience, that particular portion. If you can take nothing away from this movie, except for one thing, it'd probably be that portion. I can't stress that enough. I know I said that already previously, but yeah, man, you're absolutely right. There's just something about that particular part of the movie. So anyway, I love this movie. It's exceptional, and I was very glad to see that it lost none of its potency upon revisiting. In fact, it redoubled it. I was as intrigued, if not more, the second time as I was the first time. And that is so fucking rare, man. That is just rare. Especially with something that depends on a pivotal moment to make everything just lock into place. You know what I'm saying? Very rare. And then to still see fresh elements come into play. And most importantly, and I can't stress this enough, again, just so that we don't sound presumptuous, but really because it's true, just to experience the moments where I could fully understand something, finally. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was that's just another level of satisfaction. So yeah, man, this movie is, for me, one of those rare masterpieces that comes along, and it's an experience for damn sure. So I would have to give it a 10. This is definitely a top 10er material. Let us know what you think about this movie, because God knows people have opinions about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't seen it, please do watch it. I don't think we've spoiled too much. And even if we said, I mean,
kinda,
but not really,
but
not really,
not
because
in the way
the detail, the way it's structured, and the details needed to ascertain what we've said are still, things that you have to experience. So this is just to somebody who hasn't seen it, would just be nonsense, really. But anyway, the point is, this is something that must be seen, for better or for worse. Whether you're going to end up hating it or loving it, it is something that must be seen. There's a reason why people were like, "Wow, this is the fucking best movie ever," or whatever the fuck they said.
It's not a freaking attack on your precious slasher movies, guys.
Yeah.
Stop being so mad about it. It's a movie. You don't like it, cool.
Michael Myers, it's not this type of movie, all right? He can exist in his own little microcosm.
Yeah. Jordan Peele's not going to destroy your genre, guys.
Oh, man. People are freaking out.
It's anyway, whatever. That's another video.
The point is, check this movie out. Tell us what you think about it. Hit like, share, subscribe, and those notification buttons. Because we're out.